What it do, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. This is Triple DS. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. A little while ago, I made a list of the top 5 most disappointing teams in the 2023 season. This week, I'm going to get a little bit more specific. There are some players out there that had very high expectations. Some even had mediocre expectations, but they still could not be met, and it was quite prominent that they could not be met. The NFL has a lot of players, so I will probably not get to every single player. That being said, let me know if you guys want a part 2 to this. But these are the top 5 most disappointing players in the NFL 2023 season. Since there are so many potential players that could be on this list, I'm going to give a few honorable mentions quickly. We'll start off with Tony Pollard. With Zeke gone, Pollard was supposed to ascend and have a breakout year. Currently, he's on pace for less rushing yards than the previous year, has only a 4 yards per carry average compared to his 5.4 last year, and he has just 5 touchdowns to 12 the previous year. Keep in mind, last year he only started 4 games. We also have Kenny Pickett with only 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, just over 2,000 yards, a QBR rating of 38.8 through 12 games. He hasn't really taken the step in the right direction as the Steelers had hoped for his sophomore campaign. The only reason he doesn't make this list is that it could be argued he was being held back by offensive coordinator Matt Canada. After Canada was fired, he had the highest pass yards of his career at 278 yards. With those honorable mentions out the way, let's go ahead and begin our list. Coming in at number 5, we have Deshaun Watson. Despite a 5-1 record before being out for the season, it never felt like he was comfortable in the pocket, throwing a pedestrian 7 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, just over 1,100 yards. That's only 185 yards per game, and a QBR of 43.5. The numbers just flat out don't match the 5-year, $230 million guaranteed contract that he received. And it's even more concerning when you see what Flacco is doing with the very same team. With that being said, there may be a lot of questions going into the offseason, but fully guaranteed is fully guaranteed. I think they're just stuck with Watson. I am not saying he was terrible, but he is not worth the $230 million contract so far. Coming in at number 4, we have Devin White. White signed a 4-year, $29 million deal with the Buccaneers in 2019, but from the 2021 season onward, he has continued to regress every year since. White gives up too much in the pass game and is not getting to the ball carrier as he used to. Compare his 87 solo tackles in 2021 to his measly 46 this year. That is cut in half. That's clearly not good enough to remain the starter. And it's not just tackles either. It's tackles for losses, quarterback hits, sacks, all down from last year. And keep in mind, 2022 was a down year from 2021. Despite being the full-time starter during the first couple years of his campaign, in 2023, he has become a rotational player for the Buccaneers. Here's to hoping that he bounces back with another team, but I don't think the Bucs are going to give him that chance. Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Mac Jones. Now, Mac didn't have high expectations to really begin with, but even with the bar being low, he still somehow managed to perform below that bar, having an abysmal season with a 2-9 record, a 10-12 touchdown to interception ratio, and just a little over 2,100 yards passing. That's only 192 yards per game. Still somehow better than Watson. Mac looked scared in the pocket. It didn't help that his pass catchers weren't that great either. Juju has not been the wide receiver they hoped he'd be. Hunter Henry cannot stay healthy. Same goes for Devontae Parker. During the second half of the season, he spent a lot of his time getting benched on and off again for Bailey Zappi. But in a game against the Giants, the plug was finally pulled as Mac Jones was benched for the final time after going 12 of 21 for a measly 89 yards and throwing 2 ugly interceptions. It's crazy to think that Mac Jones may be done in New England after just 3 seasons, when just 2 years ago, he was the Rookie of the Year. Alright guys, moving into number 2, we have Miles Sanders. Sanders was meant to elevate the rushing attack following the Panthers trading CMC the previous year. He was meant to take some pressure off the number 1 overall pick in Bryce Young. But that was far from the case this year. Sanders struggled to stay healthy, and even when he was healthy, he would have pedestrian numbers, to put it mildly. During the 2023 campaign, he had a career worst yards per game, yards in total, yards per attempt, and all of this while signing a 4-year $25 million contract this past offseason. It's already looking like a huge mistake. One big reason why I put Sanders higher than some on this list is that I felt like the Panthers were legit contending when they signed him. 4 years for $25 million in this day and age is a lot for a running back. Unfortunately though, it appears that Miles Sanders will only prove the sentiment that you should not pay a running back. We'll see what happens next year, but it already looks like a horrible signing and a huge disappointing year for the running back drafted by Philadelphia a few years ago. Alright guys, when I decided to make this top 5 disappointing players list, the first name that came to mind for me was this guy. Just like Miles Sanders, you know, we're talking about horrible contracts. I think this guy takes the cake. Ladies and gentlemen, for number 1, we have Daniel Jones. Jones was coming off the best season of his career, a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which was by far the best ratio he has had in his career. He had career highs in pass yards, QBR, yards per attempt, completion percentage, quarterback rating, and regular season record at 9, 6, and 1. With the work Jones provided in 2022, the Giants even earned a playoff spot and won a playoff game before ultimately getting pummeled by the Eagles. For their efforts, Brian Daboll was named Coach of the Year, and Daniel Jones was given a contract extension, and this was a 4-year, $160 million deal. Now, despite the much improved year, some felt that this was still a questionable decision. Yeah, he had one great year, but what about the 3 garbage years he had previously? Unfortunately, Jones would prove the doubters correct in 2023, as he has regressed far beyond what anyone could have imagined. Don't get me wrong, the offensive line did not do him any favors either, but still, Jones would go on to throw just 2 touchdowns and another one rushing, okay, I'll give him that, versus 6 interceptions, 4 fumbles, a measly 909 yards thrown, and 30 sacks given up in just 6 total games. In week 5, he would sustain a neck injury against the Dolphins, and this would actually leave him out for an entire month. Following that injury, he would return against the Raiders before tearing his ACL, ending his year with a 1-5 record. Already, the contract is looking like a huge mistake, especially when you consider one of the positives that Jones had was his mobility or his scrambling ability. When you tear an ACL, it is hard to get back to the speed that you once had. So combined with putrid play, this leaves many to question what will the Giants do following this year. Jones regressed like no other, and he's coming off of a torn ACL. They signed Darren Waller, so they felt like this could be the next step, but he also was a bust. Someone I probably should have mentioned in my honorable mentions, but like I said, there's just so many players you can mention. We will only wait and see what happens. You know, they do have Tyrod Taylor. He is not going to be the long-term answer. They have Tommy Cutlets, but if you watch him play, he seems to be more of a serviceable backup. Don't get it twisted. He was the best quarterback for the Giants this year, but that's not really saying much when Tyrod couldn't even get on the field, and Daniel Jones kind of just went back to being Daniel Jones. That being said, I never wish for players to struggle, and I do hope that Daniel Jones does bounce back and proves doubters wrong and proves that he was worth the $160 million extension. But the jury's still out, hence Daniel Jones is my most disappointing player of the 2023 season. But there you guys have it. That's my list. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to thumbs up this video and give me a subscribe. We're on the road to 1,500 subs. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, y'all. Shoot, boy!